I'm building something bigger than that. I'm building my own brand. Whatever your value proposition is going to be in whatever line of work that you're in, I'm looking at it every morning thinking, what can I do to make that brand just like one fraction of a percentage better today than it was before I got up?
Welcome back to the Sarasota Office. Brian Loebker here with today's guest, Drew Russell. How we doing, Drew?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being here. The Sarasota Office is where Sarasota's quiet wealth comes to share its story. Sarasota is known for its quiet wealth. It's very different than Fort Lauderdale, Miami, New York City. People here pride themselves on keeping their wealth quiet. You are going to know that with your profession, which we share more than anyone. So we're going to talk about that. And we're talking to up-and-coming entrepreneurs, early onset entrepreneurs, and of course those that are tenured like ourselves but still encounter troubles and bumps along the road or just seek additional motivation. And there are very few people I know personally who are more qualified to be on the show than you are, Drew. So thank you for being here.
Well, it's nice of you to say. Thanks again.
I love it. I love it. Well, without further ado, Drew and I do work together. Full disclosure, Drew is a real estate agent. Drew coached and mentored me 13 years ago when I came into business, but we're not going to spend all day talking about real estate. But I do want to go over especially the sort of unofficial tagline we have of the show, which is those that remember the TV show, The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with Robin Leach. And no, I cannot do his accent as you asked me earlier, but I'll work on that. So this is, if you could imagine, The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous business edition. And we joke all the time when we have people in our cars, when we go over the bridges and they look left or right at all the waterfront mansions in town and they go, who lives in all that? And who do they usually think lives in those homes?
Yeah, it's Tom Cruise, right?
It's got to be Tom Cruise, yeah. or Tom Cruise's mom.
I've heard both versions.
I don't think Tom Cruise's mom's rumor has been debunked yet. That still floats around pretty actively.
For another episode, we'll do that.
That would be a whole series, wouldn't it? But in reality, that's not who lives in these homes. Who are the people that own most of these mega waterfront mansions we have?
It's the small business owners. It's people that have import-export businesses, manufacturing. It's simpler industries or all kinds of different self-made wealth has moved to this area over the years, as you know.
Yeah. And I will call out that you did note self-made wealth. I mean, we do have several C-suite people that are executives. I think we have the former chief executive of Target. I believe we have the chief financial officer of a very large logistics company who I will not disclose the name. But for the most part, it's self-made, right?
Yeah. And I think people, part of like what keeps Sarasota is that the people that are moving here, they appreciate they wish to remain low key, which is different, I feel like, than some areas. It's understated and it goes with the area.
It is. It is. And is found often with those that are self-made. I think those traits go hand in hand.
For sure.
Personally. So that's one of the things that attracted me to Sarasota, but the show is not about Sarasota. It's just a coincidence that we happen to be here, and it's a great platform to bounce off of. But you, sir, how long have you been self-employed and in the entrepreneurialistic world?
I have been an entrepreneur for pretty much all of my working life, which is now over 2 decades, which just, makes the gray hair make more sense, I guess.
Distinguished.
Yes, exactly.
So now you went to college, is that right?
I did. Yeah, I studied, went to college on the East Coast of Florida and did some graduate school, and it ultimately ended up moving back to Sarasota because I missed it. Got into the real estate world pretty much immediately. Got in at a really good time, 2005. And I just saw some wild things. I couldn't, you go from waiting tables, which I highly recommend. It's honestly a great job.
So do I.
I mean, you want to be an entrepreneur,
yeah.
Go close some shifts at a restaurant and take as many tables as you can and realize, oh my gosh, other people don't want to work hard. I can take their tables. I can do their side work. I can bust my tail for the last 3 hours of the night, and I can make 3 times as much as everybody else. And that was kind of like that mentality, But coming from that, there's a cap on what you can earn. And so then when I came here and saw how the real estate market was 20 years ago, which is reminiscent of COVID, I mean, it's just crazy. It blew me away. And then basically unceremoniously just completely fell off right after that, right as soon as I got in, we went into the recession. It was sink or swim.
I love it. And we're going to come back to the sink or swim, but you already touched on it a little bit with the hospitality industry and the waiting tables. And I agree with that. And regardless of sector or industry that people are considering to enter into in entrepreneurialism or whatever business they own, waiting tables is a phenomenal case study, petri dish to go and see if you have what it takes to stand out amongst your peers.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the better things I did, and was realizing, wait, so if I have a job where they don't set a maximum on how much I work or a minimum on how much I work, but they also don't cap my earnings. If I choose to work harder, I can make more. I'm like, this system kind of works for me. And I think that's the entrepreneurial mindset,
It is. It is.
To some degree.
You're saying there's no cap. I can work as much as I want. My income is a direct result of how good I am or how well I perform at my job. To have that is sort of ingrained in you, or it is not. And there are many people who enjoy going to work, collecting a paycheck, coming home and calling it a day, leaving work at home. That's not us. And you sort of either have that in you or don't, I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that that there's nothing wrong with not having that entrepreneurial mindset. In fact, that's safe, stable, reliable. There's a lot of great career people that work, in very structured roles for their whole career, and the world wouldn't turn without them doing what they do, right?
100%.
There's other people that just are not suited for that type of structure, or they thrive being able to create kind of their own rules to some degree. And I early on found that was much more in line with my temperament.
Yes, you have to embrace the chaos.
You do a little bit, yes.
Yeah, but you're right. We are the minority, and we forget that because generally in the world, society's mindset, a tribal mindset, we are naturally as humans attracted to people like ourselves.
Yeah.
So we tend to find ourselves attracted to other entrepreneurialistic minded and forget that we're the minority. I mean, I don't know what the percentile is, but I think Cody Sanchez made a reference when I was listening to her out in Texas recently, something like 7% of America or sub 7% of the United States is a small business owner. So that means 93% are paycheck employees and enjoy that stability.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't think that at all based on my travels. I feel like I'm meeting with people that are like us all the time.
Right.
And business owners or people that are self-made.
Yeah. And it's not right or wrong, just personal preference.
It's just what circles we run in.
It is. So let's go back. You said you went to college and then you went to grad school before entering the entrepreneurialistic space. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So that's very interesting. And I know a lot of young people, there's a hyper loud debate right now about yes college, no college. And there, as many people as there are opinions. But to go on to the graduate level and then still make the choice to enter into the entrepreneurialistic world, can you take us back through that? I mean, that's a gutsy move.
That's a great question, and really gets to kind of the core of why I think I've chosen to do what I'm doing with my life. And so, yeah, I went to college, started out, I had several different majors, never could nail anything down, didn't take it too seriously for the first half. And then in the second half, I got really into philosophy, religion, literature. And so that was the course of study that I was in deep. Yes. Deep. And I found it very fulfilling. I liked it a lot. And I ended up graduating and getting a fellowship to go study at Wake Forest and to continue my education. And I was on a track to become a college professor, basically.
Wow.
Studying philosophy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you think, well, what in the world does that have to do with selling real estate or building a business? Because really very different. But what I learned in college that I still use every day is how to articulate an argument clearly and then defend that argument. And really, pretty much every conversation we have, argument isn't the right word, but it's
opinion.
We're trying to move someone from here to there.
Yeah.
Whether it's for our client, whether it's price, whether it's terms, conditions, whatever it is that we're trying to do.
I think it even expands outside of business.
We're generally interpersonal relationships.
Trying to get our way usually when we interact with other people.
For sure. And so that works in scholarship. It works in philosophy. It works in the faith and religion world. But it also plays in the business world. And so I was doing that, and I realized while I was studying that this was not like being in a cubicle all day. Like it wasn't working, right? So I stopped what I was doing. I didn't finish my graduate degree. I just started. I didn't finish. Moved back here and immediately got my real estate license, which is funny, right? Because you can get a real estate license at 18 with a GED.
Absolutely
correct. You don't
need
an advanced degree.
That is correct. You need no degree at all.
Which I think is a huge point for people considering it if you're younger and you're listening to this. I mean, that's a huge opportunity if that's a great thing to get as you're going into college or something like that, just to have it.
So you, in the middle of graduate school, decide this isn't it. I'm going to step out into the real world and trust yourself, which I think is incredible. I think it's a lost art in a lot of people. I know that it's something I battle with immensely, that I can trust myself indefinitely and then turn on myself quick as a dime. But you have to have a certain amount of trust in yourself to take that leap, and you did.
Yeah. And I think that, at a young age when you're getting started, yes, you have that confidence, you have that trust. And then that's also buttressed with the fact that you have no other options, right? So I just realized I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And I realized that just the business world was where I wanted to be.
I love it.
Yeah. And the rest is history.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get right into some dessert, and we're going to cover all this.
Okay.
But now that we've kind of got a little backstory of how you ended up here, and you've been in your field pretty much your entire adult life.
Yeah.
Give us a fun, almost braggadocious, if you will. Where was a moment where you really felt like, okay, I'm going to be all right?
My first sale in real estate was really kind of funny. Because as I indicated, it was in the market when it was a boom town. You really couldn't lose, but it was also that you can't lose is what created the recession, right?
Right.
You have people buying 2, 3, 4 investment condos, and it was all going well till it wasn't, So anyway, I'm entering the market into that environment where it's just super heated. Everything's going really well. And I ended up just taking a floor shift where I had started working and answered the phone, and it was a physician from the Midwest, and he said he wanted to buy a condo in a certain building on a certain barrier island, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. I don't know what island it's on. I don't know the name of I don't know anything, but a little bit of fake it till you make it, which you kind of have to do as long as you're not crossing any lines there. But was able to transact that, made a quick, more money and in one check than I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I thought, oh my, what have I been doing? This is going to be amazing.
I have arrived.
And that was probably, that check right there is probably what sustained me for the next several months to be able to try to actually make a run at real estate. Because I always tell people, it's like going to college. I think it's a 4-year, and probably starting any business, it takes several years, not months, to get it really going.
Hearing you say that is super interesting. And regardless of what industry others are in who are listening, real estate is a great representation because we get to try and fail forward at each individual aspect. And as soon as we get good at one section, we have to turn our eyes somewhere else. But when we take our eye off the ball over here, that area tends to collapse. So do you experience that? I know you have some staff, but you're still a very small operation, aren't you?
Yeah.
Body count wise?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I kind of pride myself in philosophically. There's a big trend in all things in the business world towards bigger is better, consolidation. And not that I'm against that. I think scaling makes sense, where appropriate. But for me to deliver the services that I want to deliver at the level that I want to deliver them, I've chosen to keep my practice boutique and small. So I work with one full-time assistant. So it's just me and her. And
wow.
I couldn't do it without her.
So you're in the trenches every day.
Every day, rolling up my sleeves, getting my hands dirty. But I love it. And I think that it's just that obsession with every detail.
That's so unique to know the level of business you operate. And one of the things that impresses me about you is the way you treat your career as a business every day. Drew Russell, although is self-employed, you work for Drew Russell
Real Estate Solutions.
Drew Russell. Okay, right. Sure. So there's Drew Russell, the individual, but then there's Drew Russell Solutions, Real Estate Solutions, that you get up and go to work for every day. Do you treat that a differentiator that what's best for the business may not be best for Drew, the individual, and sometimes you have to do things you're uncomfortable with?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that's the definition of it, right? And that you have this autonomy, but part of that autonomy and being able to maintain it is realizing that I'm going to sacrifice that to have the discipline and the plan and the routines and everything in place to make it work,
Yeah.
That's, if you don't have that structure innate within you or something, maybe it's not innate, but it's something you're willing to commit to, you're not going to make it as an entrepreneur.
And you're going to find out pretty quickly, I imagine.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So the lack of structure, let's talk about that. That's something we hear a lot, but you in the real estate field, you go to real estate school, you get your license, you get hired by a broker, and then you show up, and what happens?
You get everything you need, and it's just like you have to go produce.
Right. The phone doesn't ring, does it?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think it does in any one sector. Whatever your widget or your field of business you're attracted to, you go, you set up, get yourself set up, you have your LLC, you have your fancy business cards, maybe you have your website, your Instagram page, and you're done. You feel official. And then nothing. the phone doesn't ring.
A lot of silence there at the beginning, for sure.
So much silence because you eat what you kill. You have to go out and shake the trees. Can you give us some backstory about what it was like for you experiencing that when you were official and you had your LLC and you had your state license and man, you were off to the races? And I don't know, did you catch yourself looking at? Did you have cell phones back then when you started?
Oh my gosh!
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So rude. Actually, we didn't have smartphones when I started. Actually, and I remember when the BlackBerry came out, which this is really. There are a lot of people aren't going to know what that is. So that was a whole thing. And I actually remember that was crazy, but we actually used to have to drive around and collect signatures too. That was a big part of my day.
Wow.
Offer, counter offer. Hold on. Let me go drive over here. Drive back. Oh, changed. Let's go drive back again.
Wow.
So, and now there's just so many things we take for granted, but getting back to dealing with that isolation of starting a business, one thing that has been said to me a lot over the years is that people cannot really believe my morning routine. That's one of the biggest things. Usually before some people are having their second cup of coffee, I've done a lot of heavy lifting, whether that's going to be working on me personally from a physical standpoint, whether that's going to be prospecting. And that's because I'm a morning person, right?
Will you take us? Do you mind? Will you share what your morning routine looks like?
For many years when I first started in the business, I was really into triathlon. And then it became CrossFit and now it's martial arts, jiu-jitsu, right? So usually before 7 a.m., I've completed some sort of extremely rigorous workout. And going to and from those workouts, I'm usually working on myself spiritually, working on myself with some sort of motivation, really focusing on that input time, not just driving, zoning out. I try to make it so like by 7:30, I'm like completely locked in and done. I've exercised my body. I've gotten my mind right. And then I'll start going about my tasks of the day, which is that really early morning time is focusing on not responding and reacting to what's come in, because that's what the rest of the business day is for usually. But it's where can I move the ball forward? What's the next thing that I need to anticipate? And really just that mindfulness of anticipation, I think, is what predicates getting the phone to ring.
I love it. I love it because there is no structure. There's no guarantee that anything's going to happen, that your phone's going to ring, that your Google ads are going to work. For sure. You have to shake the trees yourself. And I love the emphasis you put on taking care of yourself, your body, your health, your spiritual fitness, your mental well-being.
For sure.
Because you're your biggest asset.
Well, and I've realized this more as time has gone on. At the beginning, it's about how do I get as many transactions as I can to make a living? How am I taking care of my family and myself? But now I'm thinking, okay, I'm building something bigger than that. I'm building my own business. I'm building my own brand. And as you start to, like, whatever your value proposition is going to be in whatever line of work that you're in, you start to build that brand. And I'm looking at it every morning thinking, what can I do to make that brand just like one fraction of a percentage better today than it was before I got up? You know what I mean? And so whatever that takes to build that brand just a little bit more each day, that if you focus there, like the details just take care of themselves. Like things happen.
I love that. Yeah. I love that I'm trying to improve the brand every day, even if by just 1%.
One tangible thing. Like I can look back at 5 o'clock and I can say, okay, here's the one thing I did, whether it was something web-based, advertising-based, a client meetup-based, something. But there has to be a result each day that I'm building something.
And do you know what that's going to be when you start the day, or are you just looking for it as the day progresses? Do you keep sort of a menu of choices that you can pull from if you need to?
Sure. I mean, I always have a ridiculous master list journal of a million things that I know I need to be doing. But I think as you start getting in the flow of your day, you're going to know what those things are that you need to be doing. But sometimes, yes, I'll strategically sit down and think, okay, I need to either be with these people. I need to juice up this part of my, online presence, or do this for AI or whatever it is, But so, yeah, I have an intention that I work through the week.
Okay. So if you had a younger person or someone thinking of stepping out or has recently stepped out into entrepreneurialism, whether that be commission-only sales as a sort of a gateway into entrepreneurialism, or they have gone into small business ownership, maybe they've purchased a small business, just a few employees, maybe doing $1 million a year, what guidance would you give them under the topic of structure? What would you say to a young person or a up-and-coming entrepreneur new to it about morning routines and structure?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is it's good like financial advice, but it's good like life metaphor advice, and that's pay yourself first, right? So what I'm doing every morning, when I'm spiking my cortisol in the gym, when I'm doing hard things, when I'm facing the problem of whether it's, the weight rack or the guy in front of me or the road ahead of me, I'm putting myself in a position where I'm pushing myself. And also that release for me, the health component of it and just locking in my mind and my body together and then setting an intention for the day. I've taken care of myself like before basically the sun has come up, right? Yeah. So I know that I've won the day for me personally going in, and that's going to just set me up to be in such a better place to serve other people going forward. And also, if you wake up in the morning, I feel like, and do a really hard thing, that just makes all the challenges that follow not so hard.
Eat the frog.
Yes.
If you have to eat a frog,
just get after it.
Eat it in the morning.
100%. And, some people that may not resonate with, they say, well, Drew, my best thinking's done at night, or this, adjust season to taste, right?
Yeah.
But it's figuring out where in your daily schedule that you're going to put yourself first to take care of you, because you have to show up for your people, right?
Right.
And if you're not showing up at 100%, if you're tired or hungover or out of shape or just don't, you know what I mean? Some days we're sick, some days we don't feel good and all that. But I just found when I really take care of myself, I'm like at peak performance for myself and for other people.
I love it. Now, I'm known for putting people on the spot.
Oh boy.
You know this.
Oh boy.
You know this. So in theory, that practice works great. And when you have the tenure that you have and years or decades in your field and are a true master of your craft, far from retirement, still working as hard as anyone I know.
Yeah.
But let's pull the curtain back to what did it look like for Drew Russell when he came into his field and into the real estate industry on a big high, on the boom, and then all of a sudden the rug was pulled out. When someone's down and out or someone's new and they don't have that bit of luxury and padding that you do with your tenure and time and service that you have, I remember vividly waking up and debating, I know the right thing to do is to go out, start exercising the body, take care of myself. But on the same token, I also know I have no leads in the pipeline. There are, there's no future income. The financial plug has been pulled and I'm on the clock. And you have to choose. Do you work harder and skip lunch and skip the exercise? Do you double down on the exercise when times are tough? Can you go back in your mind and think that? Or what guidance would you give to that younger version of you now or the next person?
Well, yeah. And so let me just paint a little bit of a even more bleak picture of what happened in 2008. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But one of the hardest things is we had twins in 2008.
Oh,
yeah. And so, I'm a new real estate agent, did okay in 05, 06, 07, 08, 09, very tough, right? And my wife was a school teacher, and her salary at the time, I think, was maybe $40,000 a year. And we just felt like that was so much money, and the stability of it. It was great.
Right.
And then I'm over here trying to figure things out. Well, when you have twins and you need full-time childcare for two people, you realize that the $40,000 salary really doesn't make any sense because it's too expensive to care for the kids. So we basically went from kind of two incomes, fairly stable, to now my wife is going to stay home. I have two new babies in the house, so I'm not sleeping. By the way, the market is, Lehman Brothers is failing.
On the daily, we're getting
like every day
reports.
It's getting worse.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's all over. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so the advice from that is, and I don't want to over dramatize it for me because it was a beautiful, great time in my life, but it was like, dude, you have got to figure out how to produce.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would argue is that, again, this emphasis of taking care of yourself and making sure how you show up. Like, yeah, there were some nights I slept for like not at all with two young babies at home, right?
Right.
But I still would try to find a way to like get my head right, either whether get in the gym or like whatever your thing is, right? Like I'm talking about physical stuff a lot, like exercising, which I think is huge, but maybe it's going for a walk outside. Maybe it's just watching the sun come up. Whatever it is that kind of gets you have 30 minutes in the day.
Yeah.
You can't be so busy that you can't find 30 minutes. And if you're that busy, there's a whole nother core issue that we got to deal with there.
Yeah.
So again, I think just taking care of you, showing up and realizing that like we're, as crazy as things seem like in the world right now, this is a great market to be an entrepreneur. Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of good opportunities out there. The world is changing so quickly. And I feel like people really have a leg up, the young entrepreneur. They have a leg up on you and me because we're kind of set in our ways at this point.
Oh, 100%.
They're seeing this evolution, this renaissance of AI and technology come at a massive pace. And I think they're going to see things that really good opportunities. So
I want to kind of shift into systems and processes in the way you run your business as we kind of segue out of structure, but continuing the theme. Were you sort of grabbing at thin air or whack-a-mole when times were tough and kind of putting out fires where they came up? Or were you able to implement some plans? I know you're a scuba diver. I'm a scuba diver. The phrase in scuba diving is plan the dive, dive the plan. Were you able to plan your strategy in the tough times, or was it whack-a-mole, survive, and then we'll figure it out once things settle? And then I want to get into what your systems and process and how you came to be with them, but in the moment of coming out of the hard times.
Yeah, I think so. I was always a relentless, probably to a fault, a relentless goal setter each year, and I would look at all these different categories of myself that I knew I needed to work on, and then have different categories for the business that I knew I needed to work on. And as I started to find stability, I was very strategic, and I think this would be probably the biggest thing I've done right. I've made we could do a whole nother episode of all the mistakes I've made.
Can we note that, guys? Drew's faults.
Oh man, there's so many of them. But one of the things that I've really gotten right, I think, in my career is being able to find the person that I need to ask for help, or being willing to take the risk to ask that person to talk to me. Right. So mentorship, people that have done it, right? Like, I want to talk to the person that's where I want to be, right? And what I found is that generally most people, if you ask them to have a conversation, are pretty generous with their time.
They are.
If people have learned things, they are willing to share. And so the biggest thing I learned being strategic was, who do I admire? Who do I look up to? Who can I learn from? And then also try to be a blessing or a benefit to, And I think that would be, as you search for stability, I think that's a really huge thing.
And you're primarily residential real estate, right?
Yeah. So, there's obviously rock star residential real estate agents that you look up to, that you admire. That's the easy, low hanging fruit. And that's certainly something that I've done. There's ownership in our company that I've sought out as well, that, has been very generous. But yeah, I've had other coaches from other adjacent fields, or just, I looked at other entrepreneurs that were young dads also, but I saw them
that's interesting,
holding it down. I'm like, man, how are you guys doing this?
I have a lot of respect for you all that are parents, not having children of my own, and feeling the weight of what we all do as being self-employed, entrepreneurialistic people. I have an immense amount of respect for those of y'all who have other mouths to feed that depend on your performance. It's hard enough for me as an individual, and the dogs. So that's really interesting that you identified people at your same point in life and how they were doing it.
Well, you want to know, how they're trying to plan for the future and all that, but also, what have they found that works in their adjacent field to motivate them to make sure that they show up for their family how they need to.
Yeah.
And it's a heck of a motivator, And I can remember 2008, 2009, we were doing short sales and REOs, and, it's like, you had 3 loans you had to get approved. You'd get the first one approved, the second one approved, and then one day you'd get the third loan approved to close, but the approval on the first one expired, and then you got to start the whole that is how it was, so brutally hard. But you're just like, man, I'm going to show up for my people and figure it out. And that's what we did.
Why didn't you quit?
To be honest, there were definitely times I thought about it. And I think for me, and when I think about entrepreneurship, I think you have to have that hunger, whether it's based on a true need or just a relentless unwillingness to not succeed. And I had both, right? So I'm like, I'm so competitive. I'm so driven. I'm so hard on myself. I'm like, I'm going to do this thing, but I'm also looking at those babies, and I'm looking at my wife, and I'm saying, I don't have any other options. So
yeah, but devil's advocate, I can see as many people with that incredibly strong mentality. I can see as many people look at it from your perspective, and the other camp say, I need to get a job. And that's a gutsy move. And I know we hear it a lot with the people we mentor. I know the guidance I give, but when other people are depending on you to not go get a job, you really have to believe in yourself and trust yourself. And you obviously did, and it worked.
Yeah, and it worked to the degree that I had, one advantage that I did have is that growing up here, I did know some people. Now, the only thing more dangerous, and this is like maybe a bad joke, you guys may have to edit this out, but it's like the only thing worse than a new real estate agent is a new financial advisor. You know what I mean? And I have very great respect.
And there went all the entrepreneurialistic financial advisors out of the ecosystem.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's like, hey, I just got my Series 7, let's invest, and it's like, no, I want you to have some experience. And I found that as a young agent, I may know all these people in Sarasota, but why would they choose me to work with? Right.
Right.
I did have some friends that were more like in my sphere that allowed me to get some commissions early on and just enough to sustain it and get the business to work,
So talk to us about that in whatever field the listener may be in. So someone who's got their feet under them, maybe been in their business a little bit, or who have rough timing like you did, who showed up and everything was hunky-dory in their widget factory. And then a few days after they started their entrepreneurialistic journey, the widget factory, the desire for widgets goes away. You chose to continue the fight and stick with your entrepreneurialistic dedication, goal, plan, which I admire so much, because quitting is always the easiest, but you've stuck to your path, and look at you now. I mean, you are a beacon of light to so many people for so many reasons. And I appreciate your humility. That was not a question. I'm stating that as a fact. What would you tell the young entrepreneur, and young not being an age, but young in their journey, who's going through whatever that for you was the Great Recession and the financial institutions collapsing and therefore taking down the real estate market with it, but whatever field they're in, if they're in that dark storm right now, but they say, I'm going to hold out until the absolute last minute before I go back to being a W-2 employee, what guidance would you give them? What subsection of their business would you say to focus on, or anything at all to really just double down to get them through those dark periods?
What I found after 20 years of this business is actually very simple. And we do a whole heck of a lot to make it very hard and very complex. But if I was really down and I was on my last couple of thousands of dollars before I had to, I would really try to figure out, who do I need to meet? Who do I need to be talking to? And not that they're going to hand feed you money or they're going to hand feed you deals and all that, but it's just, it opens the doors. And when I look back to my REO time, REOs are real estate owned, which means a bank owned property. So in residential real estate, an REO was like half the market in 2009.
So these are not the sexy waterfront mansions.
These were some I mean, again, I could tell you some stories. We'll stay away from it, but just to stay on topic. But I took the time in those moments to find out who those people were that had the control of those assets, and they were hard to work for because they didn't care about you. Right. But you know what they had? They had product that needed to sell, and it had to sell. And I said, I'm going to get here and figure out how to be of value and get enough done so they can stop doing this. And luckily, all that kind of took care of itself. But if I was really at my last wit, I don't think it's buying a luxury car. I don't think it's joining a certain club to be around certain people, because I just think people are too smart. They can see it. And I think it's, how can I interact with people and be of value to them? I don't think it's buying more ads. For me, again, I think it's starting with that human connection of someone that can help you, propel you to some of the rooms that you might need to get into to take the next step.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just that one or two lifelines, and then you need to go do everything else, right? But for me,
and
it's
sometimes you talked about finding, senior people or mentors and coaches that you had. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's all it takes, is that set of fresh eyes to say, you're focused on the right, just look to the left, from someone who's been there. The story of the man down in the hole, right? One drops a rope down, one drops a whatever, and then one finally jumps down in the hole with him. So I've been down here before. Who it's an important thing. And we spend all of our time trying to expand our knowledge, and I'm going to study this and read that book, and how many books you order on Amazon that never get opened, and you, in the end, it's sometimes just a phone call away that someone can help you. It's interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, to that point too, constant evolution of education, right? Like every industry has had so much change over the last several years. So you want to stay on top of all that. But if I was down to my last option, it would be, I just believe there's lifelines out there in the form of people that can really help point you in the right direction.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. So now, fast forward, you've come out of the Great Recession. Mm-hmm. You made it. The limbs are still attached. You're still here.
Yep.
Everyone's safe. Okay. Do you sort of reinvent yourself now that your industry and your sector of business real estate has stabilized. Are you forward thinking? Are you business planning out at this point? What does that look like?
Yeah. So in about 2010, and that is when things started to begin to stabilize. I think 2011 was the first time I saw like a home sell for higher than it had sold for in the previous 5. You know what I mean? So we started to see some appreciation. And then basically since then, we've been on a pretty good run up until just the last couple of years. So it's a beautiful market, the 2010s, you know, it was great. But I hired a business coach that had nothing to do with real estate, and kind of took a flyer on it and didn't really know. And he just pushed on me on everything.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
pushed on you in which ways?
just accountability. You know, there's things that we're good at that we want to do, and we'll, you know, and stick with those things. But, you know, back then also you have to think the world looked a lot different. You know what I mean? Technology looked a lot different. The way we advertised, you know, we still used a lot of print advertising back then. Things were just different.
Sure.
But he forced me to examine all these different parts of my life and to make sure that I was producing on all levels. Again, I look at the business owner as a holistic thing. Like, it's not just me, the business owner. There's so much of the human side that we try to just stuff and ignore and be like, oh, well, I'll take care of me once I get to a certain level, you know? But he was really good about that integration of the whole person.
Is that getting back to sort of your morning routine and, and getting active to get the cortisol?
Yeah, he helped cement that as well. I mean, that was something that I already had in place just naturally, but he helped me with that. And he encouraged me to make phone calls that I wouldn't have made. He encouraged me to make phone calls, period. You know, this is, I was calling expireds. I was doing a lot of the hard prospecting things, like whatever it is in your line of work that would be like the worst thing that you could do to get business, you know?
Yep.
That was me. But he was making sure that I was doing it. I probably would have chased it a different way. And then at some point, you know, within a couple of years of that, I just remember one day coming home. I actually do remember this. And I had all my deals on a board, you know, and I started kind of calculating everything in the volume, and you start to think about maybe, gosh, I'm going to make this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm successful, you know, like I think I'm doing this, you know?
I love it.
And then from then on, man, it's just been, you just hit this inertia, this synergy. And of course you have ups and downs, but it's just a test of perseverance. And I think it's having someone that will say that knows you well enough to say those hard things to you. Like, hey, you're really good at this over here. It's not producing. We need to move over here. You know, it's just that different set of eyes.
It is. A different set of eyes goes a long way. And to back up to the part where you talked about the coach talking about, you led in with the holistic approach as taking care of you, the business owner, in a holistic way. When you hired that coach and he drove that home with you, could be candid. Do you think, as you play that back in your mind, part of you was almost looking for permission to take care of yourself, and that you were dedicating so much to the performance of your business that you felt like you were doing something wrong by taking attention off of it and putting it onto you personally, and you wanted someone to vocalize that permission that it's okay to take care of yourself too? Yeah, I mean, those were hard times, as I said, with young children at home. And I mean, everyone's going to go through that if they choose to have kids or whatever that family. There's always some other background obstacle, whatever it is. Always.
Right? Fill in the blank. If you're living life, you've got it, no matter what form it takes.
Here I am at 41 years old, and I can tell you there's certain, you know, if I hit the gym later in the morning than normal, I find myself feeling guilty and have to remind myself and give myself permission again that I'm investing in the business by being here. This is good. So was that similar? Yeah,
I would say he helped underscore that for me. But what it made me realize, having a coach, which I have a coach now too, it's totally different many years later, right? But he helped me understand that I needed to be taking part of my profits and investing that, not just like in the business itself, but investing in me, like intellectually. Like training or coaching, or like, I know you've traveled recently for some of your own learning purposes and all that. But it made me realize, again, if I am, as an entrepreneur, my brand, am I feeding myself? Am I becoming a better version of me, which also immediately translates to a better version of the business?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you still actively seek that outside education?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just recently got a new designation this year. As you know, we sit on panels and advisory boards and have different groups that we're a part of. And so what I've realized, again, with how fast industry in general and business is changing and our market is changing, is like, you have to be sharpening that axe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I do get lazy at times and I get away from that, and I'll realize I'm behind. And if you're just one step ahead, that one conversation where that comp, or that sale, or this one detail about this new legislation that nobody else knows, and that could be the difference.
Yeah. So after the Great Recession, was there ever a time after that you thought about throwing in the towel again? Did it ever get hard again for maybe no particular outside reason other than life has seasons?
Oh gosh. Well, it just depends how honest I want to be. Yeah, I think that we can battle. I mean, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that I battle with burnout from time to time. And think about, I think in my busiest years, because the goal, if you're in real estate, right? So ideally, right, you want to work a certain amount of clients at a certain dollar volume, and that's going to be the most efficient use of your time, the most profitable use of your time. And a lot of times early on, you'll have a high volume of clients at a lower value threshold. So I think at one time, probably in the busiest years, 2017, 2018, I was serving above, 50 deals a year. So I'm closing a house a week.
That's a very, very high number of transactions for our industry.
It's a lot. And I definitely battled with burnout during that time because I just, you just felt if you missed 2 hours of work, you were just going to be so behind with all the variables.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think just every now and again, you have to, reassess why you're doing what you're doing, stay in touch with that why. And, my why in my business is to help families and be a change agent to help them make the change in their life they want to make. You know, they want to move here, they want to move there, they have this going on, that going on. I want to make it happen for them, the best financial outcome with ease and all that. And when I reconnect to that and reconnect to my people, you start to fill back up.
You do. You do.
And
it's hard to pour from an empty cup.
Indeed. So, yes. That's something you got to guard against is burnout for sure.
I love it. In hindsight, or for the entrepreneur sitting on the fence, debating whether or not to give their 2-week notice, would you have jumped into real estate at the same time, knowing you were about 5 minutes ahead of the Great Recession at the time, or would you have waited?
Yeah, I would answer that the same way I handled the objection of people that tell me they're going to time the market for buying. Or for stock trading or whatever you want to say, right? I just think that, there's always a more perfect time, but, a lot of times they say that the best time to plant a tree is yesterday. Yeah.
Next best time?
20 years ago, or you know what I mean? However that story goes. But I just think you cannot plan life. And if you have that fire in you, trying to wait out an economic cycle is a fool's errand, in my opinion, right? Because you're going to have to adapt many times in your career to many different economic cycles or many different market changes or litigation or whatever it may be, right? And so I think you have to be smart about it if you're coming from a stable. I was coming from nothing, right? So I didn't really I just went for it, you know. But if you're going to quit your job, and you're looking to start your own thing, you need to have an intelligent plan. Yeah. And again, I don't know how it is for other industries because I'm only an expert in one, but I always tell people like starting a real estate business, because I meet with a lot of agents about it, I say, look at it like a college degree. Year one's going to be completely surprised.
This is a great analogy. You touched on it earlier. Now, you can tell when I'm being selfish and jumping in here because I want to make notes myself.
Okay.
So you referenced that earlier, thinking as a college degree is if I'm hearing you correctly, what you said was treat the first 4 years of entrepreneurialism, regardless of what industry you're in, like your college degree. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, keep going.
So you're putting in on a lot of hard effort. You're pulling all-nighters. You're doing what you have to do to get it done. And I think what that does is some people don't need that long to get a business established. Some people take longer. But by the end of 4 years, I feel like you should have a good idea what's happening.
I would hope so.
And so the first year, you're just cutting your teeth. You're learning everything. If you can make it through, it's okay. The second year you build. Then you start to get in your upper level classes. Maybe you get a waterfront listing. Maybe you have a more complex business transaction. And then your senior year, it's like, man, I'm starting to feel good. I'm big man on campus and the future is opening up. So I just feel like that's a good analogy to look at it because I think what people think is, hey, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to get into whatever business I'm going to start.
Right.
And I see other people doing it. This is just going to happen for me. And it can, for sure, right? It can also be a much longer runway than 4 years. But I feel like for our specific industry that we're in, if you choose it that way and you treat it like, man, I am going to school, right? I am studying everything I can, then you should be able to have some success after that time.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's an exceptional analogy.
Well, thanks, man.
With one asterisk.
Oh boy, here we go.
There's no student loans. You are paying as you go.
100%.
And don't lose sight of that.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get your head get your head out of the cockpit with your financial stability. It's something we live with as business owners every day. I imagine you check your business bank account every morning when you wake up, just like the rest of us. At any given point, I can tell you exactly what, if you pulled the financial plug out of my business, exactly how long that runway is until it runs out. And my red light, green light, yellow light parameters are set extra conservative.
Sure.
Right. And a new entrepreneur or someone who's been in a slump for a minute and is out seeking that education through you and is listening here today, how do you provide comfort and say, you know, you have to reinvest in the business. You need to go out and educate. You need to have a gym membership. You need to dedicate the 30 minutes. But, oh, by the way, I'm going to need you to keep 12 months of reserves, 6 months of reserves, some of us 2 years of reserves. How do you balance that seesaw, or would you give guidance to someone else to balance that seesaw?
Well, in listening to you say that and thinking about that analogy of a college education, I actually think that was initially born from financial planning when I'm trying to explain it, because you're going to live, you may live like, do you remember, you know, ramen noodles? And so I think, yes, you have to kind of have a plan. And same as when anyone goes to college today, they have to have some sort of financial plan, whether it's, we don't want to do it with debt if we can, but you've got to have some sort of plan in place. And living below, like hardcore below your means at the start. And if you do have that payout, hanging on to it. And there's no easy way to do it, but you do have to build up that 12-month fund. You have to. And it can take a while to do it. And that's okay.
Daunting.
It's very daunting. But again, the people that can budget and that can plan and are okay with that type of wild insecurity financially, they're the ones that are going to flock to this. And if you can't handle it, like it's a great argument to go be on the other side, right?
It is. And I think that the danger of that lurks abnormally high in the solopreneur world. I think it's an ever-present danger in the entrepreneurialistic world for all of us, but in particular, and solopreneurs being a loose term for one-man shop or one-woman shop, or maybe 3 to 5 employees, one sort of rainmaker, breadwinner, leader, you know, the owner, and 2 or 3, 4 support personnel, but it's really a one-person operation. I think that fear lives extra present with them, or maybe it's not fear, maybe it's a lack of understanding of the importance, meaning a dollar earned is just as valuable as the dollar saved, and how important it is to protect the dollars going out of the business. Am I making sense with that? I know I personally treat that way. You know, you have to squeeze me and put me in an arm bar, not you, Mr. Professional Jiu-Jitsu guy, but hypothetical arm bar to get me to spend money out of my business account. Once that money's in there, it is not to go out. Now, I also fully embrace reinvesting in yourself, reinvesting in the business, but I treat a dollar out just as valuable as a dollar coming in. Do you?
Yeah, I try to be very measured with my spending, but there's a sweet spot, right? Because if you don't spend on your brand, you're never gonna get traction. And again, with 2 decades of experience of mistakes, I can tell you all the things I've bought and spent money in campaigns, right? I mean, we all have those examples that just didn't work out, right? And so, you can waste a lot of money on advertising the wrong way. And I'm going to drive home the same point again, but that's where these relationships that are built on, you know, people that are your people that you stick with, you know, customer acquisition costs we talk about, right?
CAC, so customer acquisition cost.
Let's say that you're selling t-shirts, right? And you have someone order a t-shirt from your business. That is your paid for customer, you know, and it's the same in real estate, insurance, financial planning, whatever. You've got to stay with your people, take care of them, love on them. And then you'll find that your expenses to generate new business go down dramatically. And at the start, you have to try things, you know, try it. But there's a lot of really good businesses out there that are good at extracting money from other businesses, especially preying on entrepreneurs.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Phone rings all day.
Right. There's no warning label. I am anti-warning label. However, I do wish that entrepreneurialism came with that warning label, because you do become a target the day you open your business, the day you file your LLC or your Inc., you become a target. And it is easy to bleed that money. And it's also just as easy to be as constrictive on your money. You know, neither one of those is right as the ebb and flow. And I remember vividly, it was several years in our field before I could get someone. Now, full disclosure, I was probably not asking the right questions, but before I could get someone to give me a sense of a metric or a ballpark of what I should be reinvesting on the marketing side. You know, if my gross revenue is X, what percent of X is an industry standard, right? We didn't have AI back then. And I did the same thing you did. I surrounded myself with people to ask the right questions. So that's why I'll put the onus back on me that I probably didn't ask that question. But I didn't know if I made $100,000 gross my first year, was I supposed to put 10,000, 20,000, 30,000? It's gonna be different for every industry. And that information is readily available now. And then there's personal preference. But did you go through that learning curve a little bit where you had to kind of find things and get your bearings?
Yeah. And I find that it ebbs and flows too with different, I mean, I'll have some years, you know, that my ad spend and marketing is quite a bit higher for whatever reason, usually only because it's necessary. And yeah, it changes. And that's where it's important to, as you build up, you know, that business account over time, to have a little bit of a slush fund, and you got to try things too. You know? So
it's also one of the funnest things we get to do. I enjoy that part.
Sure. Yeah.
I enjoy that more than most.
Yeah. And I'll try anything once or twice, you know, and then if it doesn't, you know, and the hard part with market share and branding and all that is it's a slow burn. So all this stuff that we sign up for, that we pay the big money for, is usually like meant to be like a quick Band-Aid. And I think that's like the biggest misconception, right? I'm going to spend, you know, $20,000 on this media campaign that will get me, you know, 5 listings or whatever. And it's not promised. It's not really realistic, you know? It's trying to pay to cover over another core problem in your business.
And on the marketing and ad spend side of our business, which is a huge part for everyone, you said it already, consistency. And there are many shiny things out there that help. And all these tools are great, but ultimately it boils down to knowing the lifetime value of your customer, knowing what your customer acquisition cost is, which all starts with tracking your numbers, and then reinvesting in the parts that work. You can throw things against the wall once or twice. Have you seen that? Do you have a couple of sort of heritage things that you go to on the marketing and ad spend in your business that, you know, no matter what shiny thing is served to you or you hear about, you know, these things have to keep happening on the regular in your industry to move the ball forward? Am I making sense of that question?
Yeah. So I think, yes. So there's going to be things that I spend money on that I'll take chances on during a year that could be anything, right? It could be a certain type of ad online, or it could be a certain print ad, whatever it is. And we'll take flyers on those and see how they work. But we have the same core practices for retention and for exposure in place. And so I'm locked in. I have a videographer on retainer, as you know. I have a certain amount of content that I need to film, whether it be for my own properties that I'm advertising or just for building the brand each month. Have a relentless commitment to touching once a month my existing clientele, you know, that let them know that I'm still here.
I love that's the second time you mentioned that retention was the first word, and your past customers keep going.
Yeah. And then we try to do events, and then certain mailings through the year that bring our people out or send items of value to them. So again, we overcomplicate, we overcomplicate things. And so we think that the latest advertisement online or the latest, Instagram fad or TikTok fad, whatever, is going to be the ticket. And I think you should try all that stuff. I'm cool with it, but you have to have your underlying foundation. And I've had that foundation for 2 decades. And I think that my business is proof that works. And so don't deviate on the core things, and then take a flyer every now and then, see how it works. It may just help you level up.
And we've danced around this, staying on structure and consistency. And I can tell you, as an outsider who's known you personally as long as I have, one of the things I'm most impressed with of you, if I had to describe your business to an outsider, it would be systems and consistency. You sort of remind me of what's the movie where Will Smith is the dating coach, and this is where you live.
Hitch.
This is where you live, right?
Right here.
Yeah, this is it, baby.
If you ever see me at a wedding,
yeah,
I'm right here.
And people who excel at staying here always catch my eye because I'm up here.
Right.
I'm always up here. You know that. I want to know what's going on here and there and everywhere, and it's not hard to get my attention taken away from what it should be. Yep. And I've always respected your stepping out, trying new things, in particular video, and the fact that you have a videographer on retainer is monumental.
Thanks.
But I've always respected your consistency in your business. And I look in our sector, in our sector of real estate, those who consistently outperform, and I am talking about your performance and the dollars you bring home to your business and to your family, those of you who consistently perform at the ultra high end of the market. I mean, just right down to who make the most money, whose businesses make the most money, and you are most certainly included in anyone's conversation of that. You're not this. You're not, spirit fingers up and down. You are consistent over and over. You try new things, you're doing new things, but you don't miss it. And I would love to hear, is that subconscious? Does that just come natural to you? Do you have to wake up every morning and write it down to stay? How? I'm asking personally and for the listener here,
Well, again, first of all, I'm this is hard for me to talk about. I'm flattered that you put me in that company, but I also do track relentlessly my numbers against the board and the size of our team and our profit per person that's on our team. And yes, over the last couple of decades, we've done pretty well. And I have always been consistent. People ask me that a lot. What is the secret sauce? And I think sometimes if there may just be a way that I am, the way that I go about business that causes my closings and my income stream to be, I almost have the feeling of getting those paychecks fairly regularly, which I know is not how our industry works, right? And I really cannot explain to you exactly why that's happened the way that it has, but I would think that it's a long time of doing the same things that work, that are repeatable and scalable, which is all the things we've been talking about this whole time, and just continuing to show up,
Yeah. The story's always in the data. How few people truly record and track their data is appalling to me.
Yep.
You have touched on it without being asked a direct question multiple times today. Take us through your numbers. What do you track? Why do you track it? Was there a time you didn't track it? Did you get smacked in the back of the head one day and then realize that you needed to start tracking? The story's in the data. I'm curious what that looks like for you.
I had the honor of being trained and educated under a really good mentor right out the gates in the business. And he had an Excel spreadsheet that basically helped you budget your whole year and helped you back in from what your living expenses were to your marketing budget to everything else, exactly how many houses you needed to set, like what volume you needed. So from a volume of sales.
Okay.
So volume, when we say volume, it's like how many $1 million of product do you need to move?
So we could say you need a certain amount of gross income, pre-tax gross income, top line revenue.
Exactly. And to do that in our business based on commissions, how many houses is that or whatever,
Okay.
right? And so I've always kind of tracked that, and more it was initially about surviving, and then in the last probably 5 or 6 years, I've switched to a much more detailed budgeting and planning outlook. And so my business plan is set up by year, it's set up by quarter, it's set up by month, and it's set up by seasonality, and it's set up by analyzing over the past 5 years, what sector of business, like where are my customers coming from? Is it sphere of influence, people I know? Is it referrals? Is it past customers? Is it my web presence? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? So I have it all charted out. So I do have this kind of relentless commitment to my business plan, and quantifying that and forecasting. Like I kind of forecast almost like I own a big company. You know what I mean? I forecast for seasonality. I know how many sales I need in a given quarter or a given month. And I think setting that intention and knowing that I need those, it's just telling yourself you have to have it. You kind of figure it out. You kind of create it.
Wow. So you back into your top line number.
Yep.
2026, Drew Russell Real Estate Solutions needs to gross $3.2 million to meet these other goals or metrics. What are you tracking within the operations when you look back at wrapping 2025 or the rolling 2 years or 3 years? What are some of the key metrics you're looking at to give you the story that you need to set for 2026?
Well, I would answer it a little differently than that. So I think early on I was backing into what I needed, right? And now we're backing into what we want, right? So it's different. So I'm able to cover my expenses, my business expenses, my other ventures expenses. Like we're performing at a level where we've got that. But it's like what do we think we can achieve based on market conditions? What's our push goal? What's our B goal? What's our C goal? But I set that business plan at an A goal, like what would be just so crazily unattainable, but we're going to try.
Okay.
If you don't start that in January, it's not going to happen.
I agree.
So yeah. So again, it's not really backing into a number. It's more forecasting what we think we're capable of in the best case scenario.
I love that you covered that mindset shift. In the beginning years, it's what is it to pay the bills? And then it's, how do we get a 5% increase? How do we maintain, how do we just do what we did last year? And now you've reached a point where it's, let's set the goals. If we did X million last year, let's try to do X plus, whatever that might be. But what are the numbers inside that? You talked about customer acquisition costs, lifetime. I mean, are these things that are important to you? Are there any metrics you haven't talked about? I know in real estate specifically, we talk a lot about database work. I heard you say the word sphere of influence. Everyone, regardless of business, has a sphere of influence, and that's going to be crucial to them. That's going to be the people they when they launch their t-shirt, their gig, or open their electrician business, whatever it may be. That's going to be the first people they tell, right?
Sure.
Is that how you would describe the sphere of influence?
Yeah, people that people that know, like, and trust you.
Know, like, and trust you. And that's the metaphor we use. But I think that holds true across all business. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So do you track the number of people in your business database, past clients? Are you tracking the numeric number of people? Is that an important thing?
I mean, I try to be careful a little bit with that. People and numbers are, in my mind, almost opposed, right? Because each person has their own value apart from just being a number in my database.
Right.
But obviously, I'm trying to add to it. And in our line of work, what happens, since we sell a fixed product in a fixed location, if for me with listings, if 70% of my business is listings, if those people don't move here, they're gone, right?
Right.
So, you can still market to them, but if they've made a life move, there's a good chance they're not coming back, right? So you have this migration in and out of your database. But the numbers that I'm more focused on is really just understanding my ad spend, how effective it is, and then understanding my other tangential business expenses, health insurance, HR costs, payroll costs, all the fun stuff, and all the insurances, everything you have to have, making sure that you have that covered. And I track that stuff relentlessly. And then really talking about not the need to budget, but the want budget. Now that's all about realizing that after 2 decades, gosh, we've gotten pretty good at this. We've helped people make a lot of money in real estate. And now, keeping the brokerage angle, I'm much more focused on hard assets for myself, development for myself, rental properties for myself. That's the big shift too. When you finally get to a point, which you will, that you're focusing on your own portfolio rather than just doing it for somebody else.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Now that you've reached this point in your career where you're out looking over the horizon for you've got the business running pretty well, but you're taking care of Drew and Drew's family. How are you approaching that, extracting money and saying, I'm comfortable leaving the reserves in the business where they are, or paying myself a little bit more so that I can afford to pick up additional assets or make more investments? Talk to us about you outside of your day job and what you do in addition to your primary income driver, but that is still focused around wealth building for Drew and his family.
That's a great question. So one of the biggest mistakes that I made that I will share is I think that going through the recession made me more conservative than I should be, right? So you see everybody potentially losing something, and so you get your hand on a couple of bucks, and you're like, man, I am never letting these go. But cash at 3% or 4% or as high as 5% in the bank is really, just with inflation, and it's really not a huge advantage, right?
It's not working.
So you need to save money. You need to have all your fundamentals taken care of. But I've just realized that it's like, man, you have got to get in the game. And if you're doing it as an agent, you should be able to do it well for other people. You should be able to diversify and do it well for yourself. And I'm very bullish on rental property. I mean, rental property, it has continual utility. And as we've seen, our area is only going to continue to grow. So if you make a smart buy, whether it's here locally or anywhere else that you feel confident that you understand the market, those assets just over time just become incredible.
Yeah, there's so many benefits and ancillary benefits to owning real assets. Investments of any sort are great. And we are, of course, the two of us are extremely partial to real estate, but when you can shift your mindset to real estate being an asset and a wealth builder, or even a generational wealth builder, and not just an income stream.
Sure.
That seems to be a big moment of maturity in the outlook. I remember for years thinking, wow, if I can only make X number of percent on each rental property, it's going to be a long time until I'm making $200,000, $300,000 a year owning real estate. And then one day you mature to the point, or someone helps you get there a little bit faster and say, oh, this is another stream of income. This is in addition to what we do primarily, right? And now there are people who have an argument that doubling down and reinvesting or adding additional assets within the field you work in is high risk. Meaning if your primary, right?
Sure, you're all in one field, right?
Yeah. Do you think about that?
I do. And I mean, I'm diversified in other things, obviously, as well. But I think, you got to play in the sandbox that you know. And I'm conservative, as I already indicated, in nature. So if we make an investment, an acquisition, we feel really good about it. And the idea is that yes, it's an investment, right? So you're playing with money that you can afford to lose, right? And so that's the first thing. But you don't want to. It would hurt. Like, you're not trying to lose the money, right? But you're going to be able to sleep, and you're not going to lose your home, right? Yeah. We would argue, though, right? Like, which house would you not wish you had bought and retained over the last 20 years? You know what I mean? As we were coming up, like 100%. You really couldn't have enough. So in our area, if you're buying in A-class neighborhoods, over time, you're going to win. Yeah. It's the same argument with the tree with houses, right?
Yeah.
Good time to buy them. So
yeah,
they're going to go up and down just like stocks.
And it's a long-term play.
100%.
Anything I have grown to be of the opinion when it comes to wealth building or even business ownership, anything that's happening ultra fast or right now makes me a little nervous. Things when it comes to wealth building generally don't happen or need to happen overnight. It's a controlled decision. It's a controlled action. I'm not saying you don't need to move with a purpose, but I also look back on in 13 years to answer your question.
There we go.
13 years. Okay. I won't hide forever.
Pretty long time.
Yeah, very long. And learned a lot in that. And one of the things I look back as I've watched my portfolio of assets increase, decrease, increase again. It's amazing. And I did not notice it at the time, but I can look back and see it clear as day that when I was asset heavy, my quality of life in my entrepreneurialistic day job, my business ownership of what I do day to day, and I affectionately call what we do our day job. It's certainly way more than that, but my quality of life, my quality of sleep, my self-confidence, everything was better and calmer the larger the asset column was on my balance sheet. I would liquidate assets, be cash heavy, make moves, expand here and there. When the physical assets came down, it was almost as though my anxiety and stress in my business went up because there were not the assets. And I can't really expound onto why, but does that make any sense to you hearing me say that?
I can understand what you're saying. I'm not connected to it as much that way. But I think what you're saying is that, there's a sense of security that comes with that. And any entrepreneur, you're going to find your security, whether it's in your cash balance or your future orders or your assets that you own in another adjacent industry.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But yeah, you definitely have to have that other thing that makes you feel, if things go bad, I'm going to be okay.
You articulated it so well. Yeah, the sense of security.
Yeah.
Albeit false, perhaps. It can go down. Anything can go down as long as you don't put yourself in a position where you have to exit on someone else's terms or the market's terms. You exit on your term.
Right.
And I think that is, as we talked about goal planning and goal setting earlier, I'm curious what yours are. I call it getting your head out of the cockpit or looking over the horizon. And I know that we do some goal planning together and we do some very elongated things, but what are your metrics when you're looking out both business? You talked about your 1 year, quarterly, monthly business planning, but what other time frames do you use either for you and your family or you as the individual or for the business timeline wise for goals and things? Do you do 1 year, 3 year, 5 year?
I have a 1, 5, and a 10, basically.
1, 5, 10.
And, 10 is just your crazy dreams, what you hope. 5 is what you think might be on the edge of attainable.
Yeah.
And 1 is what you really expect that you're locked in to make happen this year, And any interval is good, but a plan that doesn't have a trajectory long term, then what's the point of the plan?
I agree.
And it's funny, like mine's changed so much over the years and it will continue to change, but you have to have that, I think that underlying sense of purpose and direction. is what makes it happen. And I just want to say too, like the stuff we're talking about now about like assets and rentals and save and all that. I mean, this is all like we're on level 3, level 4. We've graduated the college.
We're out of school.
Yeah. So this is master's level stuff. So like if you're just getting started, don't hear all this and be like, I'm never going to get there, because you will, and it will surprise you. I mean, I never thought that I just needed to feed the family. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Never thought it would grow to where it has. And I'm so grateful for that. But just don't feel the pressure that it all has to be there. But you got to have a plan to make it at least the next 6-12 months if you're going to jump into something.
You do. You have to have the plan.
But that's all you need.
It's it.
And just do it.
So on that note, how about this one?
All right.
Mindset. What are your thoughts on mindset, vision boards? You know, you said in your 10-year, those are your crazy dreams. Do you write your crazy dreams down? Are you on the mindset bandwagon?
I mean, I'm not like hyper mindfulness, because I really am a firm believer that if you take care of your clients and you take care of yourself, all those future details will take care of themselves as well. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've set goals that are specific as, where I want to be ranked in the state or in the county or nationally for sales.
A true athlete, always comparing,
always measuring against somebody else, right? Which at the end of the day, it's vanity to some degree, but it also helps you benchmark your performance and your effectiveness in the market, right? If someone's out there and they're doing it better than you, then it's like, well, why, how, and how can I be better?
Who's doing it best and how are they doing it?
100%.
Yeah.
And that answer has changed a lot through the years, right? And different players in the market that were not, that didn't exist 10 years ago when I made the first 10-year plan.
Right. So ideas that weren't made.
Yeah. Your interests changed. I used to want to, I'm not going to get into what my personal goals were. That's for another day, but your preferences and your desires and what you want out of life, they change.
Yeah, they do.
And that's cool. You just got to know which way generally the boat is pointing and head that direction.
And keep swimming, keep paddling, whatever it is. I was a pushback guy on mindset for a long time. And I did my first vision board probably 4 years ago. And I mean, it had some crazy things on it. Crazy. The
shoe fits.
Yeah. And then, it lived on the desk for 2 years. I think you're supposed to do one every year, but then we color outside the lines. And about the 2-year mark, we said, well, it's time to redo that. And I took it down and it's very raw, just a bunch of images I stole off the internet. But as I looked at it, 24 images on my vision board, damn if I haven't accomplished about half of them and didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Never took a moment to really celebrate it, from expanding the asset count to some crazy recreational dreams of mine that I wanted to go and do and have fun that have been accomplished. And I was very impressed with that. And for me, not having, children and a family when I started this, I was out just to let's see how far we can go. That I think helped give me direction. Which direction am I pointing the boat in?
Sure.
And I'm a big proponent of it. So back to, we're at level 4. We're in grad school or even out of grad school talking about assets.
We're getting our doctorate now.
If you're jumping off the cliff, or if you just gave your 2-week notice at the widget factory, I'm a fan of the vision board. Right? What do you want in 5 years? Where do you see your life in 5 years? If you're finishing high school or college right now, or if you're 45 and had enough of a day job, what do you want to be like at 55 or at 50? What does it look like for you then? Print it and put it up where you see it every single day.
Okay. So yes, I completely agree with that. And I also like it more in a microcosm also when we talk about our annual goals, right? Which so you make your categories: personal, physical, financial, spiritual, whatever your realms are that you want to work on. And I used to write so many goals, like to the point where it probably wasn't okay. Like, you got to be a little crazy to be in this business. But I mean, I had like 80 goals one year.
Goodness gracious.
But I hit like 44 of them.
See?
Right? And so you look at that and you're like, man, that level of achievement is crazy.
Crazy.
But I drove myself nuts in the process. And so you have to be careful with some of this stuff. And I think we'll put a pin in that. I'll say balance for an entrepreneur is a myth, in my opinion. I think you're either relentlessly in it or you're relentlessly taking a break. It just kind of is a pendulum that has no middle. It's really hard to find that as the pendulum's coming through and you have that kind of great spot right there where everything's in what's the word? Symbiotic.
Yeah.
Symbiosis. That is a great feeling, but it's very fleeting. Yep. And so you have to protect your sanity by taking breaks and all that. So you can go way overboard on vision and purpose and goals and all that. But setting like little goals, especially ones with a reward mechanism.
Yep.
When I sell XYZ, I'm going to buy this, and it's going to not be something crazy, but something that I've earned and something that will remind me that I sacrificed to get this. And it's just like this feeling, it just buttresses that feeling of, hey, I've been a success at this goal this year.
Yeah. And
I still do that.
As you should. And I do believe there's genuine scientific data that supports that anchoring of when you reach a certain milestone or goal that you reward yourself. And it's okay, whether it be something tangible or discretionary spend, you buy yourself a watch, you upgrade the car, and all things relative, not to ever compromise the financial health of you or your business. But I believe there's actual scientific data that supports the rewarding yourself with a tangible good job.
I think so
that you get that same chemical release and experience in the future when moving towards a goal.
And delayed gratification is really important, right? So it's like, because we could afford to go out and buy that car or that watch or whatever today.
If you are still struggling with delayed gratification and thinking about entrepreneurialism, I think you need to address that first. Because the first time you cash that big check, like you said, when one of your first big milestones was you cashed a check off of one transaction, one paycheck that many people make in a year.
Right. And you got to put it away.
And it's a really cool story if we stop there. But if you go past the hashtag and you go buy the watch and the car and the wardrobe, and now you can't pay the bills next month, or you don't have the money left over for the ad spend, you got yourself in a big problem.
100%.
We see it all the time. We see it all the time. So last thing, as we start to wind down, not that we're going to end on a negative note, but you did talk about it and we kind of skimmed over it.
Oh boy.
You said earlier that you are one who has struggled with burnout. Can we go into that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
I am too, just so you're not alone there.
Well, I think that, look, the more people I get to know and the more people that you get to actually be honest, there's a lot of people that will lie about this, but I think any entrepreneur, we have to put on a good face, outward facing, but I just think the amount of drive and just passion and just energy that you put into the universe to build your business or your brand, if you're pushing as hard as you've got, eventually you just run out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the definition of burnout, is being at the end of yourself. You know what I mean? And so I've had bouts of it on and off, but the time that I mentioned, I want to say it was around 2017, 2018. And I think we were, me and one assistant were doing over 50 deals a year, and just saying, man, I can actually remember having contracts, like offers coming in on listings, and thinking, like, this sounds bad, but I'm going to say it. Like, I hope this doesn't go together, because I just can't handle it emotionally right now. I'm just so tapped out.
You're pressure testing the system, just on the pins, throttled out.
And if you get to that, that's great that you're there, because that means you have more business than you know what to do with.
Right.
But that also means something somewhere else is getting neglected. And it's just part of that pendulum I was saying that's just out of line.
That was super mature, the way you said that if you're experiencing that, something else is getting neglected.
Yeah.
That's a very introspective way to look at that.
Well, and it was, and that only contributed to the burnout, because you're neglecting your family, or you're neglecting your health, or you're neglecting whatever. And again, I think you're going to go through seasons like that, but you've got to have the awareness, and you've got to either recruit others that can come alongside you to help you. That's the point where you start to reach growth, right? So if you want to grow a team, or if you want to build your company, that's when you make your next hire. Preferably before you get to burnout.
I was going to say, before you get into what you do when you're there, can you play it back in your head? Are there symptoms, signs that you remember that you kind of sort of carry with you going forward, because it'll happen again?
Oh, for sure.
That you kind of want to be on the lookout for?
Yeah. I think it's just natural in life, in any relationship or any endeavor. Some days are easier and harder, and you just start to lose that that spring in your step. You're like, oh man, I got to watch this, you know? And now that I've been through a couple bouts of it, I've thought, okay, here's where I may not be showing up my best for my people. And my whole brand, the integrity of it, is predicated on showing up as my best self for my people. Because I believe that these negotiations and these moves and all these details, they matter so much, right? So not only am I cheating on myself if I'm not feeling well, I'm cheating on my customer. And that just starts to be a bad snowball. And I think you see the results of it from time to time in other interactions you may have with professionals. So you start to feel it. You need to lean into it. You need to figure it out. Talk to somebody, meaning like, maybe not like a therapist, maybe a therapist. Yeah. But like, hey,
talk to someone.
Yeah, I'm starting to get to where I can't control this. I'm going to give up some revenue and bring on somebody else for the sake of my own sanity.
Yeah.
And that's an easy trade.
my respect for you and your business is incredible. I will also venture to say again, those who roll their eyes at the real estate industry as a business, that's fair. You're entitled to that. Come spend a day in our world or in Drew's world, walk a mile in Drew's shoes and see what it's like to have to wear every single department head hat to be held accountable for. And it's not for the faint of heart. And to do it well and do it consistently well is so hard. And you have mastered that and are a master of your craft. And I thank you for coming out here and spending time with us.
Well, thank you for those kind words, man. It's very nice of you to say.
I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. And so as we start to wrap up, we'll let you go with it where it means. But 20 years into the business and Drew's life today, what does thriving or successfully thriving entail or look like for you?
Well, I feel like when I'm thriving, I think we have to accept that we can't always be living our lives in the most optimal state, right? And I think when I feel like I'm thriving is, again, going back to that pendulum and everything's just kind of in balance. I've got great listings, I've got great buyers, I've got things under contract, I have great future opportunities. And you kind of get in that groove and you stay there and you do feel like you're thriving. But then if I had to take a step back, if you're going to be doing well, feeling well about yourself, you have to be able to figure out how to quote unquote thrive on the outskirts of that as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think you just over time, this sounds weird, but you kind of just calm down a little bit and you realize like now, rather than trying to get through a year or transaction without a problem, I just expect the problem now, which is a big shift. I used to try to prevent every possible thing from happening. And I finally realized I wasn't God and I can't control everything, which is like a big, late breaking news for me, right?
I can't control everything. For a lot of people,
we try to
two guys in a room talk about it. It's easy to say, but it's a lot harder when you're out in the field and
we try to manipulate every situation for our client's advantage or the advantage of the transaction or whatever. And I just have finally realized that taking a step back, chilling out, slowing down, expecting the problem, and then dealing with it from there. Has allowed me to get to a mindset that would be more thriving when things are out of whack. Yeah, thriving for me is just maintaining that sense of collection and control, even when things aren't exactly where I want them to be.
So on that note, if someone watching or listening wanted to reach out to you, one, is that okay? Do you mind if people reach out to you? Can we share how to find you?
No, of course. I mean, that has been in the last kind of 5 years, one of my passions is talking to new agents, starting groups for new agents, or even just whether it's not real estate adjacent, anything. I'm happy to, if part of my legacy can be helping a young entrepreneur, I'm here for it.
I love it. I love it. Tell everyone where to find you.
You can find me on Instagram at Drew Russell Real Estate, or drewrussell.com has all my other contact methods, and you can reach out that way as well.
Beautiful. Drew, you are amazing. We appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks again for spending some time with us. My name is Brian Loebker. This has been the Sarasota Office with Mr. Drew Russell. We'll see you back here again soon.